All right, viewers, thank you so very much for staying tuned. Of course, if you're now joining us, you missed a great conversation. The first half of the program focused on the March for Girls that is happening tomorrow. And I found this conversation very interesting, especially since it came a few days after Guyana joined the rest of the world in observing International Women's Day. So of course, this is my first program since then. I take this opportunity, even though I'm a woman, to wish all the girls and the women, because girls eventually become women, girls and the women across our country a happy, well, in this case, belated International Women's Day. I like to remind you that regardless of how strong you think you are, women are strong. We really, really are strong. Women put up with a lot. Men, I like to remind you on International Women's Day that celebrating women is not about bashing men. You don't have to bash someone in order to celebrate yourself. So those of you who've been on social media calling for a men's day and when you're going to get a men's day and men's international day and men need a break too and men treat women good, and it's not celebrating us, is not about bashing you. So those of you who feel left out, your day will come. You'll always get your chance, but it is always important to remember to celebrate our women. And the thing is that it is so significant because we're living in an era when there's so many women, young women, middle-aged women, older women, women like Akola Thompson, who we feel the need to fight for women's rights and let our voices be heard. I have some female colleagues and friends who would disagree with me. I like to remind people, frankly, and this is my sentiment, I do not believe that a woman can take the place of a man. It is not about that. It is not about putting one sex against the other. It's about a woman standing up for herself and, standing in her strength, standing in her beliefs, and standing in her truth. So that is what International Women's Day is all about. It's about celebrating you, celebrating the contributions that we continue to make. We do so much in terms of holding families together, holding offices together. Yes, the offices are not your homes, but the fact is, any one organization try, and I think the United States of America actually did this on International Women's Day. Try having your corporation or your entity or whatever survive all of your women staffers. Just have them not come to work for one day. Just for one day, and you will see how important women are to an organization. Again, I'm not saying that men are not important. There are some roles, this is my personal belief, there are some roles that I feel that only men should take up. But women, at the end of the day, women must be respected for all the contributions that they make, and we women, we have our roles to play. And I don't mean roles in the kitchen, as some of you men may be at home thinking and saying. Of course, on Facing the Nation today, I have only had one guest. For those of you who are wondering what's happening with the ministers' meeting at Congress Place, I can tell you, you have another hour. Minister of Social Cohesion, Dr. George Norton, he's currently at Congress Place meeting with persons who, again, Congress Place, and by extension, the government of Guyana has come up with an initiative to make it a little easier for persons who would like access to the various ministries and access to the various ministers, government ministers. And unfortunately for now, these meetings at Congress Place that are being held on Fridays, they are only for the ministers, the government ministers who are members of the People's National Congress Reform, to meet with the members of the public. Again, let me remind you, this has nothing to do with conflict of interest and discriminating. At the end of the day, these ministers were placed in office because of the great support and encouragement that they would have gotten from the ordinary people like you and I on the ground, who would have not only campaigned and so on, but who would have encouraged them. They have constituencies and constituents to take care of. So that is what those meetings are all about. Even though you do not have to be a member of the People's National Congress Reform to go to Congress Place and take whatever issue, whatever concern, whatever problem you may be having to a minister. So again, as I said, those of you who did not know, well, today Dr. George Norton is currently at Congress Place Sophia, and he'll be there for the next hour. So you have an entire hour to get to Congress Place, and have your issue addressed. I did promise you in the second half of the program I'll be bringing you sentiments from Dr. Richard Van Charles, who is the CEO of the Guyana Water Incorporated. He made the sentiments at a recent commissioning ceremony at Sophia, where a road was commissioned and a new water supply system. Before I do that, though, every week I like to give you some tidbits and reminders in terms of where you get your information and how cautious you should be. Only last week we spoke about it, and I think the week before that I did remind you in terms of sifting the bad information or the misleading information from the good. Once again, sometime last night, between last night and this morning, the Ministry of the Presidency was forced to respond to an inaccurate Demerara Waves report. And this is especially for those of you who view this program, who view Facing the Nation on social media, on my YouTube channel, because I know you also follow Demerara Waves and so on for your news. But I just want to read this quickly for you. The Ministry of the Presidency wishes to clarify that President David Granger did not at any point in his speech at the Guyana Defense Forces Annual Officers Conference, of course this conference was held yesterday, which would have been the 9th of March 2017, for those of you who will be viewing this program at a later date. The President, David Granger, did not at any point in his speech at the GDF, the Guyana Defense Forces Annual Officers Conference, make reference to or use the words, and I quote, street protest, unquote. As stated in an article published by the online news outlet Demerara Waves with the headline, President Granger raises concern about street protests and calls at GDF officers' conference. Instead, the head of state spoke of the need for internal security and stability to be maintained, and his exact words were as follows, quote, threats might arise, however, from elements who wish to undermine internal security. Reckless remarks about an uprising and provocative calls for the mobilization of foot soldiers have the potential to rip apart the fragile fabric of social cohesion that we enjoy. End of quote. At no point did the head of state mention or make reference to any specific incident or comments regarding street protests. The ministry therefore calls for a retraction of the Demerara Waves article. I can tell you at this point, I'm not sure whether Demerara Waves would have retracted the article or not. I know it would be a bit difficult for them to do that in terms of pride. However, I can tell you that they did carry this story saying that the Ministry of the Presidency wants to correct that inaccurate article by Demerara Waves. Again, this is just to remind you that we have to be very careful with where we get our information from. Little stories like these can cause a really, really major blow up. We know who is the person who for the entire week would have been inciting and making statements like as if the president goes ahead and names a GCOM head that he will call on Guyanese to take to the streets and so on. We all know who is responsible for making those sort of statements and putting those statements out there and trying to poison the minds of our people. I don't even want to call his name on this program because sometimes he really disgusts me. I can tell you, this is one official that disgusts me because I think he's on a level whereby he has created his own reality. He lives in his own world. And, there are so many negative things I can say about him that, and he just puts me in a different headspace. But I'm going to try to keep it calm. I keep reminding you that this is the Lenten season and the devil is extra busy at this point. So I don't know. The devil is probably coming in the form of this particular official who wants to incite these things and put our people in a state of confusion. My sentiments are just to remind you that you need to be aware and be conscious of what is happening around you. For now, I will go to that clip of Dr. Richard Van Charles addressing that opening ceremony. This was a few weeks ago, but like I said, I know some of you did not get a chance to see it. So listen to sentiments from Dr. Richard Van Charles, and I'll be right back with more of Facing the Nation for you.